us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to LongTalk.
That you're here, good evening, and grateful for you having the opportunity to be here with us here tonight on this Thursday evening for Long Talk, and grateful that you are present with us on this Thursday evening. And we know that this has been a very special week in the life of our country. And tonight we are here continuing in this thought pattern of Decision 2020, this week of just a lot of tension, a lot of uncertainty, and just trying to figure out what's going on this week. And we are happy to have this opportunity tonight. If you've been tuning in to Long Talk all week, you'll understand that we were with you on Tuesday night up until the wee hours of the morning, 12:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, covering it. And in that time in which our panelists and myself also admonished everyone to get a good night's rest, and we know everybody got back up again on yesterday, and then here on today as we're continuing to track what's going on in the presidential race and many other races, not only here in the state of Georgia, but also around the country. And so that's the reason why we are present here tonight, and that's the reason why we're just continuing to make sure that we know that we are getting a lot of messages in here tonight, even while we're talking. But we are just thankful to have the opportunity to be here with you. And as I always say, please do me one quick favor and just connect with us here on Long Talk. We've got a lot going on here tonight, but connect with us here by going to our Facebook page at Daunta Long, or our Instagram page, or our Twitter community. We know that a lot of people are always tweeting, and we are actively engaged in that, as well as on our YouTube page. Please tonight, if you will, go to our YouTube page at Daunta Long and hit that subscription button and also that notification bell, because just like on Tuesday, as breaking developments happen and breaking news transpires, we here at Long Talk will be on top of it to cover it. So you want to hit that notification bell so that the minute we go live, you can be connected. You can't run to the television or pick up or go here to get your news, but you can always get it right here at Long Talk. And so we wish for you to connect with us here on tonight. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been a lot going on, and we are just going to make sure that we stay on top of it all, because we want to be right in the thick of things to make sure, just to absolutely make sure that we're on top of it. All right, there we go, there we go, there we go. Yeah, boy, just telling you so much going on. But again, we're happy tonight. Tonight, we're privileged to have a special guest with us who's been on top of it, who's been right in the middle of it. A gentleman who is heavily involved in understanding and interpreting what's going on. And he's been one that's connected to a lot of political officials here in Atlanta. He serves in the political arena as well as in the religious community. He's one of our leading voices that connects the church to the political arena here in Atlanta. He specializes. Many people all over the city, when they wish to get to their political connections, they always call upon this man, who is also a ordained elder, and he serves in the church, particularly in the Church of God in Christ. He's known all over the country. He's led many initiatives to help raise capital for nonprofit organizations. He's a husband, he's a father, but most of all, he's a friend and a brother. So tonight, please, LongTalk audience, help me welcome my friend and my dear brother, Brother Wayne Martin. How you doing tonight, sir? How you doing?
I am great, brother. How are you tonight?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're very busy, but you've taken the time to get on and chat with us tonight. Thank you so very much, man.
It's my pleasure, man, and my privilege to be a part of your great platform, and I'm grateful for the invitation.
Well, I'm just happy that you have taken the time again, I say. And Martin, do me a favor. A lot of people don't know who you are, even though you've done a vast amount of work, as I said, for the religious community here in Atlanta, connecting us to the political community. But just let everybody know here on LongTalk tonight exactly who you are.
Well, thank you again, Daunta, for having me on LongTalk tonight. I am actually I watch LongTalk. You had a show with my pastor and a few other faith leaders in the city a few months ago. I think it was Pastor Through the Pandemic, and
yeah.
So I'm a fan of your platform and a viewer. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Wayne Martin Jr. I am an Atlanta native in every sense of the word. Atlanta Public Schools graduate, Morehouse College graduate, and just a lover of all things Atlanta. And I, as I heard you say, Pastor Long, I'm also in ministry. I'm a member of the Church of God in Christ, specifically Faith Driven Life Church, under the pastorate of the great Oliver Haney the third. But I'm a Kojic born and bred member. I was a member of many years at Cathedral of Faith, where my uncle, Pastor Arthur Mosley, serves as leader and shepherd, and that's always home. And so I love the Lord's people. I love the Lord's church, and that's believers of everywhere, right? Not just Kojic people. I love my Baptist folk. I love, AMEs, apostolics, and everybody in between. I have much love for the body of Christ and the world in general. I do have an extensive background in public affairs, having worked for the city government for many years, serving under Mayor Kasim Reed at the Atlanta Housing Authority, working for Council President Caesar Mitchell at one point. Most recently, Council Member Matt Westmoreland. I served as his chief of staff for a little while. I was government affairs director of the Atlanta Housing Authority. And now I'm in the private sector at a Fortune 500 company, still doing that work. I work in government affairs for a company here in the city. And part of that work that I'm very, very passionate about is community relations and community affairs. Helping the company to guide the company through where it invests its resources in making communities better. So sure. Everything that I do, man, is about serving the least of these, serving God's people. And I am so grateful to be on the platform tonight, man.
Well, friend, again, we are so grateful that you took the time, because we know in this active political season, so many political officials are calling upon you and asking you for strategies and more information as to what they should be doing in this hour and what they can be doing as they're preparing. But I just wanted to bring you on tonight because over the last couple of hours, last couple of days, we know this situation with our country and these.
There's something going on. Well, I mean, what's nothing? There's nothing going on in the world right now, right? Is this?
It's just unparalleled, man. There's nothing. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
No, absolutely, without a doubt.
Talk to me, man. What's going on in your head? What are you thinking of?
Well, every 4 years we hear the rhetoric that this is the most important election in our history. This is the election of a lifetime. And, being a student of political rhetoric and political messaging, that's going to always be said. The difference is this time it's actually true. We are really in the midst of the most consequential election in 100 years, quite frankly. And we really are on the precipice of, I believe, steadying the nation, which has been really teetering
Mm-hmm.
on the verge of collapsing on itself. Quite honestly, we have seen sentiments of hate, of division, of just social unrest be stoked in ways that we've not seen in 50 years. And I'm not saying that prior to 2016 that everything was perfect in the United States, but we had made a lot of incremental change. And I went to see President Obama on Monday when he came for the rally here in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that he said was, he was proud of the work that he did, not because he got everything accomplished, but because he did leave the country better off than it was
Mm.
before he became president. Well, unfortunately, that is not the case today. The country has regressed. We have gone backwards in many regards, and I do believe that this election is the most consequential election probably in the last 150 years.
Mm.
So that's where we are. I mean, and I think you're seeing we're seeing that play out. We're seeing history play out in real time. I think this election will be studied, and the last 4 years will be case studies for political science students for years to come. I think many books are going to be written on it. I think entire courses are going to be created around it at universities and colleges,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that it is a case study in democracy. Um, what we've experienced in the last 4 years in this country, and certainly this election.
Sure, sure. And I raised that up because some of the notes I had taken
Look at
that
them
I've
cue
been
cards.
taking personally through this, and I just wanted to lift it up before you.
Sure,
There's been a lot of talk around being patient, right?
sure,
Due to the involvement of many individuals who this time did not necessarily go to the polls on election day, but many took advantage of early voting
sure.
and absentee voting.
Hmm.
When you talk about what we will learn and what many will learn moving forward in the halls of academia and what will be the conversation around many tables in the days to come,
Hmm.
what role do you think these two platforms of early voting and absentee voting that we're now taking advantage of,
Well,
what type of role do you think that'll play in elections to come?
well, I think that's a great question. First of all, Pastor Long, I think that I say it's a great question because this pandemic has really changed and shaped society in a way that I believe we'll be feeling the effects of for years to come. I don't
Mm,
ever think that people will election day will ever have the how do I say this, the uh, importance that it once had. Right?
yeah.
I think it'll just be considered the last day to vote going forward. I think election period and election season, or whatever terminology we give to the time period of where we cast our votes, will be the new normal going forward. It's just like I don't think church is ever going back to be to status quo. I don't think we're ever
Mm,
going back into a situation where we will be 100% in the worship setting inside of the four walls of edifices. I believe that virtual church is the way of now and the way of the future.
mm-hmm.
The same applies to voting. I think that we have seen that it works. Early voting works, and it will reshape the way campaigns work. Though the timetable of campaigns, I believe, are going to be changed because what happened in this election is a lot of folks went to vote almost a month ago, 3 weeks ago. My wife surprised me with a weekend getaway. The weekend before early voting started, I believe it was October 9th, 10th, and 11th. We decided to go just up in North Georgia just to get away for a little while. And we stayed the weekend. And Monday morning when we got back, I got a reminder that early voting was starting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know what, baby? I want to go pick our son up and pick the other kids up, but let's go vote first.
Yeah.
And this was almost a month prior to today, right? So I don't think that we will ever go back to in-person voting on one day again. I think this is the norm going forward. Now, what that means is state legislatures will have to change some of their processes because as we see in Pennsylvania and other places, those votes that were, particularly the absentee votes, could not be counted, could not be even open prior to um,
Election day.
The following day.
Oh, the
Right?
day after election. Okay.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, you couldn't even open the ballots to begin flattening them out for processing, let alone counting them until the day after election day. I think it's 7
Wow.
a.m. And they tried to change that, right? They went to the legislature that said we probably should change this. There's going to be a high volume of ballots, of absentee ballots, so we probably need to change this, even if it's just temporary. And the Republican legislature said no, and we're all paying the consequences for that. Otherwise, we would know our results already. But to answer your question, I don't think we're ever going back to the great majority of folks going to vote at the polls on election day ever again.
And to that point, I want to lift up the other dialogue that I've heard a lot of on various platforms. It seems that the classification of people that took advantage of it the most have been the African Americans.
Absolutely.
Or candidly, can I say black folks?
Black folks.
We have been the ones
Yeah.
that said,
Yeah.
I don't know what early voting is, but because Daunta Long here on LongTalk on every single show goes on for 3 minutes about early voting, I wish he'd shut up, and I'm just going to go ahead and go to the poll. And Martin, you don't know how many people sent me messages. All right, I did it. Let up off of it.
No, man, God bless you for doing that.
But we saw record numbers in metropolitan cities all across this country.
That's right.
And we're hearing a lot of conversation about whether it's this city where there's 250,000, or this city where there's 500,000. Or we saw at one time in Pennsylvania there were 750,000 early votes and absentee ballots.
Right.
And it was said that these were in heavy Democratic territories, which they said were mostly black and brown. But later we found out it was mostly black.
That's right. That's right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think it's simple, right? We have a global pandemic that is still devastating this country. And I don't know if you know this, Pastor Long. We set a record today with the highest amount of one-day infections of coronavirus. It was set today. 100,000 people, new cases of coronavirus were discovered today. And who disproportionately is affected by coronavirus? It's African American people, where we only make up 13% of the population. We are 30 to 40% of the deaths and hospitalizations for this deadly disease. And so it was very wise of our leaders to go out and not only encourage early and absentee voting, but to also facilitate it in a way. I'm very proud of my little brother. I don't know, he's not a little brother, a younger brother of mine at Morehouse, from Morehouse College, who is the clerk of Harris County in Houston. Christopher Hollins used to play video games in my dorm room, and I used to have to catch him. I had to stop him from sneaking girls in his dorm when I was his RA. Chris graduated Morehouse and later went on to Yale University and got his law degree, and Harvard and got an MBA, and could be making millions of dollars a year, like literally as a corporate attorney. But he chose to go into public service. Now he's the clerk of Harris County. But what does that mean? That means you take a young African American man that knows the value of voting, that has all the credentials in the world to do this kind of job. And what he did in Houston was he created brand new innovations around voting in response to the pandemic. He created drive-through voting, right, where they literally set up drive-through stations for folks to get in their car, go through the same process they would go through if they walk up to a poll, and cast their ballot via a electronic tablet. And,
wow.
Right. And they did this, and folks fought it. They went all the way to federal court, and they won it at every hand because the vote is the most sacred part of being an American is being able to exercise your franchise and your right to vote.
Sure.
And so I said all that to say this, that black folks went to early vote for two reasons. The most important reason is that there is a pandemic that made it dangerous for us to go get in lines and stand on top of each other to vote. The other reason was, going back to my first point from your first question, this is the most consequential election in a lifetime. And we must see that. And we did see it.
We
Georgia
did see
is
it.
on the verge of flipping. Pennsylvania is on the verge of flipping. Arizona is on the verge of flipping. And that is a direct factor and response to what is happening in Washington, D.C. right now. The country has spoken loudly and clearly that they want change in the White House. And that's why you saw this great influx of black and brown voters, because it is also brown people.
It is brown, yeah.
Look at what happened in Texas and Arizona and Nevada. Those are all brown people. And again, Hispanic and Latin Americans are also disproportionately affected by the coronavirus. And so that's why you saw this huge influx of early voters.
And Martin, I know for years we kept saying that one Tuesday, by the time I get off work and get the kids from school, I don't want to stand in line for another 4 or 5 hours. I don't want to beg my supervisor to get off that day. I don't want to, if I own my own business, lose profits that day. But now, man, we saw people, particularly, I'm a pastor in the nonprofit. We were taking people to the polls on Sundays, right?
Amen. Souls to the polls.
Yeah, and so now we can say without any, let me say it like this, under no uncertain terms, you can vote every single day of the week.
Yeah, without a doubt, as you should be able to.
As you should be able to, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone or any organization that is making voting more difficult, we as citizens of this country should be very skeptical of that.
Absolutely.
The vote is the most, as I said, the most American tenet that we are all afforded the right to. It equalizes us all. My vote doesn't mean any more than an 18-year-old who's voting for the first time, right? Warren Buffett, who is a billionaire out in Nebraska, his vote is no more important than mine, or yours. And I can go on and on and on. And, voting, legislatures passed along that allow people to buy alcohol through drive-thrus and have it delivered to their front door, right? To, alcoholic beverages, saying that it's that essential to the human need that it needs to be able to be delivered. And I don't drink, so, but I'm not knocking those that do. But why would we not make voting that convenient and easy? Voting shouldn't be a rite of passage. It is just a right. You can drop the of passage off. We shouldn't have to walk over hot coals and jump through hoops to cast our votes. We just shouldn't have to do it. But, I am proud of what's happened across this country. Both candidates have set voting records. Joe Biden has received more votes than any other presidential candidate in the history of this country. And keep in mind, the presidential election is the only national election that we have. All the rest of them are state elections. Joe Biden has received more votes than any other person in the history of this nation. Donald Trump has received more votes than Hillary Clinton received in 2016. They should both be proud that the American people have gone out and exercised this right that's afforded to them in the United States Constitution. And I just, as a man that looks at voting as just the absolute pinnacle of privilege and rights, I'm just elated that folks used. I know that everybody in my family voted. Everybody, all of my siblings, both my parents, we all voted. My siblings' spouses, everybody went to the polls. Everybody was showing off their peaches or their individual stickers from their states that they live in.
Yeah.
because we all went to the polls and voted. And I think what we're seeing in the results uh, is a reflection of that happening across the country.
And Martin, let's contextualize this for a second, if you don't mind.
No, no problem.
I haven't looked at the numbers in quite a few hours, so
Sure.
if what I'm sharing is outdated, I do apologize.
No, no problem.
The last time I was looking at some data to say in the state of Georgia, the margin was within, I believe it was less than 40,000.
Yeah, no, it's actually 3,500 now.
3,500.
Joe Biden is within 3,500 votes of Donald Trump now, with 35,000 uncounted absentee ballots still out there.
And so I don't want to use this platform to cast any aspersion on anybody who did not. But by the same token, Martin, we realize that while you celebrate the fact that many, if not all of your family did, and I stand right behind you, and I'm so happy. I got a couple of nieces and a couple of nephews that just turned 18, and boy, at first, you know, some of that head was rocking. I ain't gonna be standing like, and we said, girl, you get your hind parts up and you're gonna get in this line today. You know how we do as black folks.
Yes, sir.
If you can live in this house, you going to vote, you know.
Yes.
And so we got so many of them. But when you hear numbers like that, and you realize that there are still some in our community that do not see the significance of it, what does that say to you?
So I think there's duality there, right? I think there is a responsibility on the parties themselves to really give people a reason to go vote, number one. I think the other part of it is an individual. It is a principle we need to teach and pass down to the generations, and that's why I said I think there's some duality, right? Where if folks just have not seen, I've had a very robust conversation about this very subject with a group of friends of mine. You know, we're all professionals, and a lot of us work in the political arena, and help with campaigns and things like that. And what I said is we cannot shame people, right? Now, some people deserve to be shamed. And some people know better, and they're just not making the effort to go do it. That's not who I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about folks that, have not seen change. These are the people that are on the margins of society that, regardless of who's in office, their lives have not gotten better. And it is incumbent upon us to educate those folks that doing more of the same and not voting is not going to change that.
Not going to change a thing.
But getting in the process and getting themselves involved and demanding change will. There was a time in this country, Pastor Long, where neither party wanted to see, public intervention or governmental intervention in healthcare. Both parties were just like, no, we're not touching this. Which is in the 90s, we got the children's healthcare, or for short, the CHIP program. And it wasn't until folks kept going to the polls and voting and putting leaders in office at the state level, at the federal level, in Congress, in the Senate, and ultimately in the White House with Barack Obama's election, where we saw the Affordable Care Act emerge as policy to provide insurance to low-income individuals, to enhance insurance access, health insurance. And so that is a real life example of average, ordinary people standing up and demanding change. Guess what? All those Congress people would have the best health care in the world, whether or not the ACA was passed.
Absolutely.
So there was not a lot of personal benefit to them to get that done. They got it done because voters demanded it. And there are a litany of other policies that I can point to that are in that same, regard or same vein of they were demanded by the public and it happened.
Yeah.
And so if folks want to see things get better, if folks want to see our schools improve, if people want to see right here in Georgia, we need to expand Medicare. There are millions of Georgians right now that do not have health care because Medicare has not been expanded in our state. The state of Georgia is literally leaving money on the table from the federal government, and people are going without health insurance. Well, if we had a different legislature, that wouldn't be the case. But because folks don't vote, we've got Republican control in areas that Democrats could easily win if all the Democrats would go vote. To change this, I'm not trying to be partisan. I'm pointing to an issue that one party has a position on that's different from the other party that would save lives and help people. And so at the end of the day, I mean, you see my Biden sign behind me. I'm certainly a Democrat and I support, but this is not a partisan issue, right? Healthcare to me is not a partisan issue.
It's a human rights issue.
It's a human issue, right? And I believe that if people would vote, we could change things. But what we have to do, Pastor Long, people like myself and you who don't miss an election, we're known as super voters. We're going to go vote whether it's raining outside, whether the polls is shut down temporarily. We're going to wait if we have to, whatever. If we get there and they say something wrong with our address or name, well, we just don't fix it. And we still will come back the next time and vote. Well, it's incumbent upon us to point to real life examples of things that have happened as a result of the vote. We've got to do something about the fact that in many places, schools are funded based on the property taxes. So schools that are in wealthier areas receive more funding, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's a problem that a child's education is based on their zip code and their address. That's a problem. And so at the end of the day, we got to figure out a formulaic structure to make sure that there's equity in school funding, where if the school's in a low-income community, well, they don't have the same support from property taxes. Well, how do you fix that? Well, the government subsidizes it like they subsidize everything else. The government subsidizes farmers. The government subsidizes auto production and a number of other things. We got to subsidize our kids' education. I pay taxes, a lot of taxes, and I don't mind my taxes going to support equity in education. And so it's real life examples like that I think we have to use, not just shaming people and stopping at the shaming. Oh, you just got to vote because Dr. King gave his life for it and John Lewis, was almost killed on the Edmund Pettus Bridge for it. I think they understand that. But when you point to everyday issues that could be different if someone else was sitting in the halls of Congress or someone else was sitting in the halls of the state capitol, I think that's a more compelling argument. If you're tired of the minimum wage being $7.25 in Georgia, well, you need to vote. Period. Because there's a group of people that want to almost double it.
Yeah, to what we call the living wage, right?
To the living wage.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I, to that point you brought up, voting so that the human quality of life is improved. And you mentioned this, but I want to go back to 1993 when it was the Family and Medical Leave Act that President Bill Clinton signed in.
Right.
That now says, woman, if you have a child, you don't have to lose your job or be back to work within a day or two, or a week, and so
real life examples.
Yeah. Martin, I'm telling you, you're sharing some wonderful stuff. Listen, I had this conversation on Tuesday, and we already know right now that we've got more work to do because we realize that, and again, please forgive me if my data is off. I know it's fluid by the hour, and I've not been as engaged in these last 12 hours today.
Too many to keep in your head, and if you wrote it all down, you wouldn't be able to read it right now. So please, I get it. Trust me.
But I know one of the Senate races here in Georgia, I'm not sure if it's both of them now are headed to a runoff.
I'm almost certain that both of them will be in a runoff. I think the last number I saw, Reverend Warnock, Raphael Warnock, who's running for to fill the open seat of Johnny Isaacson, his is already in a runoff.
Yeah.
The seat that where David Perdue is being contested by John Ossoff. That race, I believe, recently the threshold dipped below 50%,
Okay.
and I think it's 49.9 now, 49.9. Georgia state law says that unless a candidate reaches 50% plus one,
50 plus one, sure.
uh, uh, you it goes to a runoff
Okay.
because you did not receive a plurality of votes. So I believe at this point both of them will be in a runoff.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break, and
Sure.
we're going to be back in just a few moments. But because there is a runoff that is scheduled for, I think it's January. Am I
January
right?
5th. January 5th, yes.
January 5th. We want to continue to raise awareness around these Senate races. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back in just a few moments.
Sure thing.
I want to talk to you about the stakes in this election as plainly as I can. If we're going to get this virus under control, get folks back to work, and make sure affordable health care is available for everybody, we've got to send people to Washington who aren't interested in playing political games or making themselves rich. We've got to elect folks who will get to work for people like you. That's why I'm supporting Reverend Raphael Warnock in the special election for Senate. Reverend Warnock's someone I've known for years. He's a man of great moral integrity, a leader in the truest sense of the word. He's spent his life pushing for justice, fighting to expand healthcare, protecting voting rights and the dignity of work. You don't find a lot of people in Washington like Reverend Warnock, and that's exactly why we got to get him there. Please join me in supporting Raphael Warnock for Senate.
I'm Raphael Warnock, and I know we can do better. That's why I approve this message.
We're back here on LongTalk on this evening, and we are so happy that the conversation is continuing in the midst of Decision 2020. We're here tonight with one of Atlanta's premier public affairs individuals, Wayne Martin, who is here talking to us and helping us digest what has happened over the last few days, what is currently transpiring. And now in this segment, we're going to move towards where we headed and what's going on, because this is a waiting game. This is not for the faint of heart. You raised something that has really troubled me, if I can be honest, when you said that today it has been confirmed that more cases of COVID-19 have been discovered.
We set a one-day record today.
We set a one-day record today. And
Yes.
so we wish to continue to be mindful that while our attention is focused on what's transpiring with the election, that there is still a pandemic, and there is still just total, oh my goodness. It's just sometimes unspeakable to see the ravaging effects of what this disease has done to many families and individuals, to see how many suffer. Friends of ours, just about every family now knows somebody directly in their family, a family friend or a neighbor or somebody who has either been diagnosed with it, who has either gone through it, or perhaps who has even succumbed to it. So now that many of us know the effects of it or have been within arm's reach of it, we want to be mindful of that even as we continue to discuss the proceedings of Decision 2020. There's been a lot of unrest, Martin, with supporters out here of the Trump campaign, particularly standing outside a lot of these stations where they know votes are being counted, shouting and demanding, stop it. And in some places, they're shouting, keep counting.
Yeah.
What are we to make of all of this hoopla or rhetoric that's going on about keep counting and stop counting?
Well, I mean, Pastor Long, what you're seeing is the manifestation of misinformation
Ooh, say that again. The manifestation of what?
The manifestation of misinformation, of hostility, of indecency, and just quite frankly, sheer uncivility, right? And I think I told my wife this earlier today. I said to her, Americans have spoken loudly and clearly, and I believe the vast majority of folks in this country are sick and tired of what is currently coming out of the White House. I try to be as I have very close friends of mine, Pastor Long, that are on the other side of the political spectrum.
Sure.
I mean, real close. Like I feel like if I was to get caught in the alley somewhere and somebody was trying to take my life, I would want this person on my six, right?
Okay.
That's how close we are. And so I don't want people to feel like, because I'm a Democrat, that I am, being vitriolic toward Republicans for the sake of partisanship, because it's nothing further from the truth. But it is, it is true that we have had an instigator in the White House that stokes the worst fears of people, that plays to this what I like to call unbearable underbelly, what Secretary Clinton called this deplorable, mindset in America that for a long time, it was just not appropriate. People had those thoughts and they may have felt that way, but there was a standard where folks did not misbehave and mistreat folks. They would kind of keep that stuff to themselves. Folks were following their mama's rules of, you have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But now, the reins of civility have just been decimated. And so what you're seeing, and it's so funny because the hypocrisy is astounding. You want the count to continue in the place where there's a chance where you might overtake your opponent, but you want the very same process to stop in another jurisdiction where you're possibly going to see a loss. And so, again, we are witnessing the manifestation of misinformation. To tell people that the vote's being stolen and that the election's being taken away from a process that typically Republicans have used more than Democrats, honestly. Democrats usually, historically, have been the ones to go to the polls on election day, and it's Republicans that will request absentee ballots and cast their votes in that way. In fact, the sitting president in 2016 and actually in subsequent years has used the absentee ballot to cast his vote in Florida or in New York before he changed his place of residence. And so now all of a sudden it's wrong because the Democrats are doing it. It's astounding to me.
It's astounding.
And the age of misinformation that we're living in right now not only is dangerous, Daunta, Pastor Long, it is dangerous, and it presents, how do I say this in a way that's not offensive? We cannot allow intellectual dishonesty and ignorance to rule the day. We cannot do that. That sends the wrong message to our children. It sends the wrong message to society as a whole. We've got to tell the truth. We've got to, even if it's to our own detriment, even if it doesn't get us to our political end or our political goal, we got to tell the truth.
Got to tell the truth.
What you're seeing is just a manifestation of all the lies and misinformation that's been spread over the last. I mean, Donald Trump's been setting the country up for this for 3 months, as he's raged on about absentee ballots. He's been setting us up for the speech he gave tonight. And so what we've got to do, this is why I'm so thankful that it's looking like the White House is going to be vacated by the current president. Not just because he's a Republican, I disagree with a lot of his policies, but because of the character of the individual. I don't want young people and children. I did a post on social media yesterday that said to Democrats that we cannot close the tent and begin to write off all people that voted for this individual. We've got to open the tent. Some of those people, a lot of those people are not racist. A lot of those people are not xenophobic. They just believe that this president and this party listens to them better and speaks to their issues. And we need to give these folks a listening ear to figure out what it is that makes them abandon the party that puts forth policies that actually help, folks in their demographic, to go over to a side that the policies say nothing or speak to nothing that will be helpful to them in their everyday lives. But for some reason, the retail politics, and the retail is just that outside external presentation, speaks to them more. We need to look at that and be welcoming and give a listening ear to these issues.
Yeah. We've got to have a conversation. Agreed. Because there are going to be a lot of people upset either way, right? There's going to be some people upset either way, but the conversation that you said that, and this is why I have used this platform to engage us in understanding, and you've done a marvelous job in connecting public policy with the public faith community.
Sure.
Because for so long, both of our communities have been ignorant one of another, but only come together when it's advantageous for us for whatever our purpose is for that moment, right? But now through education, I think we all are learning that we need one another to help the future generations, to help the seniors, to help those that are disenfranchised, those that are marginalized, those that just don't know why. And so, Martin, I'm just asking you at this point, as we move forward, as we know that, again, we got Senate races that are coming up. In a couple of years, it will be time to vote for governor again and other House seats. What is one of the things that you believe we need to continue to do or do a better job of to equip our people moving forward?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that Joe Biden did well in this election was communicating to the American voters, the public, on what was at stake. I think when he talked about the soul of the nation is on the ballot, I think that spoke to people. I think we got to figure out politics is 80% communication, right? So folks that don't understand politics, most of it is just how you translate a message from the candidate or about the issue to the public. It's marketing. That's really what it is. And I think Joe Biden got a lot of people's attention when he began to use that phraseology. I'm not sure who came up with it, but I think it was probably somebody black. When you ever see the term soul, it's probably somebody black that's bringing that created that. So I know a lot of good people around Joe Biden that are very talented and gifted in the communications world. I think that we've got to communicate to people what's on the line. You set up something very key. You brought up these, congressional elections, local elections. Those elections actually matter eons more than the presidential election.
Martin, I hate to cut you off. I was just sharing with one of our dear sisters today. She said, "I can't wait till this is over." I said, "Whoa." I said, "Baby sis, this thing has just begun. We have a Senate race." She was like, "What's the big deal?" I said, "Because we can put affectionately who we call Uncle Joe in office, but if the Senate is red and anti-policy of whatever he wished to put in place,
it's like it doesn't matter." And this is what, to your point, it burns me up when I hear people ask questions of what did Barack Obama do for black people? I'm like, what? Are you serious? Did you not see the jobs and infrastructure bill that this man put forth that was shot down by Mitch McConnell in the Republican Senate, where he went on record and said, "I'm going to stop and block everything this man does,
that he
I don't
tries
want to
to
see him
attempt.
succeed, and I don't want to see his policies go forward." Well, those policies were what he was trying to do for us as a people. And so to get back to the point that I was making, next year is Atlanta's municipal races, right? Mayor Bottoms and the full council will be up for election, right? And I had lunch today with our city council president, and I told them that, you know, he was like, you know, why? I'm sorry, former city council president.
Okay.
I said to him that, you know, folks have got to understand what happens at City Hall will affect you tomorrow. What happens in Congress and the White House, it may take 2 years to reach you, right? And so, I mean, the Affordable Care Act was voted into law in 2013. I'm sorry, in 2011, and it didn't go into effect until I think 14.
Sure.
Right? And so at the end of the day, you know, what we've got to realize is that what happens closer to us, who is in the city council, who is district attorney, those things matter, right? If you want to see police officers be held to account
District
when
attorney.
they kill an innocent person, you got to have the right district attorney. Before we get to district attorney, you got to have the right police chief who is appointed by the mayor. Because when an officer has a record of using this billy club against people, that officer is probably many times in a way that is disproportionate to the circumstance. He or she is probably a violent individual that needs to be taken off the force. Well, that's just made by a police chief who was hired by our mayor.
Absolutely.
And so our local elections matter, people. There's actually not much that Joe Biden can do or Donald Trump can do about police officers killing innocent people, or not innocent people, unarmed people. And so at the end of the day, those elections matter, and we've got to communicate to people that what's at stake and what is on the line. I think if the Democrats made any mistake in 2016 and before, when we lost the House in 2010 and had to go 6 years without the House and the Senate, we made the mistake of not communicating to folks what was at stake.
Yeah.
I believe in 2016, if Hillary Clinton and the folks in Congress had beat the dead horse that is healthcare, I believe she would have won that election hands down. Because
I agree.
Guess what? When the Republicans got the House and when they got the White House, the first thing they did was take away the individual mandate. And then they go out and claim that Obamacare is not working. Well, it doesn't work because you took away the individual mandate, you know? And so I'm giving you real life examples of how we have to impress upon people what is at stake. I don't need Obamacare, you know, but I want it to be there in case I do need it. And more importantly, there are a lot of people in my family, a lot of friends of mine and church members and community members and neighbors that do need Obamacare. And I want them to be able to have that. I want sovereign immunity to go away. Just because you carry a badge doesn't mean you should have immunity from being prosecuted if you commit a crime. I want it to go away. And the only way that's going to go away is if we change the system. The only way to change the system is to go vote. The only way to get people to vote is to communicate to them what is at stake when we don't or do vote. We would not be where we are right now if President Obama's pandemic response team was not taken out of the CDC. I mean, that's just a fact. This is not the first deadly pandemic to emerge in the world. I think we saw 4 or 5 of them that emerged just in the Obama administration. We had the swine flu, we had Ebola, we had H1N1. They were contained because there were people in office that believed in science and that did not put their own personal gain ahead of what is good for public safety. And so our vote matters, y'all. When you have a relative, you look at your relative that lost their job because of the pandemic, remember that the pandemic wasn't properly responded to by the president and the administration. And that's why your relative's job is gone, or your job for that matter. That's why people are standing in food lines when we broke economic records over the last 5 years, 6 years, starting with Obama. People are now in food lines and have lost their businesses and have lost their well-being because of a vote. Period. It all starts with those 10,000 votes that were lost in Michigan, the 20,000 that were lost in Wisconsin, and I think it was another 20 that was lost in Pennsylvania. 40,000 people, the size of a city council district in Atlanta, gave the White House to Donald Trump, which is why we are where we are right now. And I'm not trying to be partisan. It's just fact.
It's just a fact.
Matter. I believe if there had been another Republican president in office in 2016, the pandemic would have been responded to differently. But it's about that person's character said, anything that makes me look weak, that takes away from my viability as a candidate, it has to be fictionalized. Unfortunately, though, the fictionalization of this serious health crisis has caused the death of over 200,000 individuals, several of which are in my family, and has sickened millions more, and has affected even more in their personal lives with their job. It is devastating. The friends that I have, the family members that I have, they've lost their jobs, they've lost their resources just because Donald Trump admittedly downplayed. We've heard the tapes. I heard it with my own ears in his voice, this serious pandemic. So leadership matters. And I know I've been talking a long time, but I can't stress enough that leadership matters. And we cannot stop here. We've got to go back to the polls for both of these runoffs in Georgia and around the country. We've got to go back to the polls for our municipal election, our county elections, when judges are on the ballot. The other thing, and the reason I'm going to stop talking, the other reason why you got to register to vote is that's how you pick jury pools. So if you're tired of black folks getting railroaded by the judicial system, it's because your behind is not sitting on the jury to help give the same grace that other communities get from the judges. But if you would get on the jury and serve your jury, dude, I know you don't want to take off work and it's a headache going out into Fulton County and waiting in the line and all of that. But it matters, y'all. It matters. And so your vote matters. I'm just going to stop talking at that point. Your vote matters, period.
Martin, this is Long Talk, and I brought you on here because I knew you had something to say.
I appreciate it, man.
You know, and I'm not being pious when I say this. I get requests, ooh, Long, can I be on the show? Yes, but I bring people on this show and our staff here that helps me when we are sifting out for guests. We seek to bring people on that have something to say.
Amen.
And for what you've just said right there in that last segment, you need to get out and vote even when this cycle rolls around again for mayor, council, district attorney, and all other local elections, because they have a direct effect on your quality of life right here in your community, right?
Right.
And civically, making sure that you're a part of the jury duty, making sure that you can be eligible to be one of the ones on the grand jury, right?
That's right. That's right.
These things that we complain about, how it is so unfair, but we do not take part in them because we say they're an inconvenience, they're a headache, or nobody told us how. And that's why here on Long Talk tonight is you are doing a beautiful job of modeling and just giving bringing consciousness and awareness to that and to these issues really speaks volumes to why many people trust you and why many people call on you in the religious community to advocate in the political community, and vice versa. Many people in the political community call on you to advocate in the religious community because you are just sharing with us the hard facts and just laying it out for us. And we appreciate you for doing that here tonight on Long Talk.
No, man, thank you.
Martin, give me your honest opinion. What's going to transpire here within the next 24 to 48 or perhaps 72 hours?
I think we're going to see in the next 24 hours. I think one of the three states between Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania will likely be called um, for um, for Joe Biden. I do think that Joe Biden's going to win Georgia. I think it's going to be a very small margin. I think between 4,000 and 7,000 votes will put Joe Biden over the threshold, and he will beat Donald Trump by that amount. I think he's going to ultimately win. He, being Joe Biden, is going to ultimately win Pennsylvania. Whether we find that out tomorrow or whether we find that out Monday, I do believe he's going to win. I do believe that he's going to hold Nevada and also hold Arizona and flip it.
Flip
I
Arizona.
believe Joe
Okay.
Biden's going to be elected. My family members, you know, I've been telling them since the summer that Joe Biden was going to win an electoral landslide against Donald Trump, and they just could not see it. And then on Tuesday night, they really were like, "But Wayne, what is happening? You said it was going to be a landslide." I said, "Yeah, I did. I just didn't tell you when." And I said, "I'm sorry. I probably should have given that more context because I was familiar and aware of the rules around counting the absentee ballots."
Yeah.
In politics, I said earlier, it's all about communication. Well, electoral politics and campaigns are all about data, and I was able to make those predictions based on what I was seeing in the data. Right, when I know from the campaign, having friends and associates that were working intricately and deep on the president's on the vice president's campaign around the country, I knew what they were doing, and I knew the work that the results they would get from doing that work, and that's why I was so confident in that, and that's why I'm confident now. Like I said, I believe George is going to flip, and I'm pleasantly shocked. I knew the data and the work was being done, but I'm still. It's like wow, Georgia has not voted Democratic since 1992
Yeah.
when I was 9 years old. I now have two children that are older than 9 years old. That's how long ago it was, 28 years to be exact, that Georgia voted Democratic for a president. And but Georgia's about to flip, and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan are flipping back, as we see. He's already won two of those three in Michigan and Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, I believe, is going to flip back as well because they did the work. They got on the ground. They talked to voters, communicated to voters, and they did the work. And they took advantage of a really, 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 really bad candidate opponent. Donald Trump could not get out of his own way. And I think that, the way he handled the pandemic, the way he handled the social unrest and civil unrest over the summer, all of those chickens have come home to roost with Donald Trump. I think decency has been underestimated in this country. I think that we may agree or disagree on a lot of issues, but I think every home where there are children present, particularly, want to see decency first, right? And what we've seen over the last 4 years, as I said earlier, has been the opposite of decency. It's been where folks have been rewarded. It's like, who can be the nastiest, and we're going to give them the reward. Well, that can't be the way society operates. Before we get to the policy issues, that can't be the way society operates. And so, to answer your question briefly and succinctly, I believe Joe Biden will be called president probably within the next 24 hours, maybe even before that. And I think those three states are going to flip, and I think he's going to hold Nevada, which is already a Democratic state.
And Martin, you just said something that jogged my memory. Joe, and we said this during the Democratic National Convention, he's a decent man.
That's it. And decency matters, man.
He's a decent man. I remember when former First Lady Michelle Obama said, Joe's a decent man. He's a decent man.
Indeed.
And I think we're calling for just decency, right?
Amen. I say it every day, man. I look at John Kasich, who is a former Republican governor of Ohio, and I look at him and I look at, George W. Bush, and I look at John McCain. They were given the opportunity to play to the worst of sentiments in their party, and each of them eschewed it. They said no. I want to remind you all of 2008 when John McCain was at an outdoor rally. I can't remember which state he was in, and the older lady came to him, and she had the microphone and said, "Well, isn't he a Muslim?" And John McCain all but snatched the mic from her and said, "No, we're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
He's a good person. He has a great family. He is my Senate colleague. I don't agree with him politically, but I'm not going to let you besmirch his character." And I want us to get back to those days, because those are the when that kind of decorum exists,
Yeah.
people that are on opposite ends of issues can meet in the middle for the greater good. Period. Right? If we're so polarized that we are willing to sit up in the halls of government where we're supposed to be doing the people's business and insult each other and act like children, and actually, I don't want to give children a bad name, act like unruly people,
My goodness.
we'll never get the people's business done, no matter where you land
Sure.
or sit on the political spectrum. And so, decency has to matter, man. I don't care what party you're a part of. A friend of mine who's one of the top young Republicans in this state, he's run for office. He can pick up the phone and call the governor and probably get to President Trump if he wanted to. Close friend of mine. We were toasting him at his engagement party back in the spring, pre-pandemic, actually late winter, pre-pandemic, and he came to the microphone and said, look at my African American over here. He didn't say that. He said, "This is my friend Wayne, and if the rest of America could get along the way we do, we could probably have a better society." Because Wayne is a staunch Democrat. He believes in the ideals, in most of the ideals, and many of the ideals of the party, the same way I do in Republican ideals. But we come together, we talk about them rationally, sensibly, and we find compromise, which is really what the world is centered on. We have to compromise every day. Pastor Long, you're a married man. You got to compromise with that woman, with Sister Long, First Lady Long. I got to compromise with Emily. I can't just have my way all the time and be uncivil and be, walk around beating my chest. I've got to be, willing to welcome her perspective, just like we got to do across the political aisle, and focus on what is at hand.
Yeah.
How do we get the business of preserving the American people, particularly those that are on the margins? How do we help them, right? And we've got two different ways of going about doing that, but we can meet in the middle and solve those issues and make it happen and get it done.
Yeah. Wayne, if you only knew the compromise I had to make with First Lady about a mirror. Just 2 hours ago, the contractor was here.
Yeah.
No, the mirror goes here. No, it doesn't. Wait on me. No, I can't. He's charging by the hour. Fine. I just walked off, and then she said, "You can act better than that, can't you?" And I thought about it. You're right.
Hey man, I've been there. We got this dual recliner at our house, and one day I came in and it was moved, and I was like, it really messed me up a little bit. But I'm like, it's her house too. So I'm with you, man. Civility needs to exist at every level in this country.
Yeah, it's got to be compromised
I agree.
in every aspect. Well, listen, it's not over. I'm sure when the decision is reached, there'll be a lot of celebration, and there may be some wailing, and there might even be some gnashing of teeth. I'm not sure, but
There can be some teeth
one
gnashing.
thing about it, we've seen something unprecedented in our lifetime,
Right.
and we're on the precipice of seeing something that we have never seen before, and that's a return back to decency.
Amen.
And we're very hopeful for that.
I think one thing before we wrap, I feel
Sure.
like you're wrapping.
Sure.
I don't want us to let this time pass without us, paying homage to what's about to happen with the election of Kamala Harris.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not saying you missed it. It just dawned on me
Yeah.
that we're having a conversation with what I would suspect is largely a black audience and mostly black women. That my daughter I think you have at least one daughter.
No, you got the girls. I got the
I got the girl.
boys.
I got it. Well,
Yeah,
I got one.
I
I
got
don't
the
know why-
boys. It's on you, Martin.
You got nieces though. You got nieces.
Yeah, I got a couple nieces. Yeah, that's true.
Got some nieces that they get to witness this black woman ascend to the second highest office in the land, and that is phenomenal within itself, and it speaks to what is possible in this country when we come together and vote. Is she perfect? No. No politician is perfect. The moment you start looking for a perfect politician is when you have really lost your own way. What you look for is decency. You look for a person that is willing to grow and listen and evolve on the issues. And Kamala Harris is that and so much more.
Sure.
And I think that what we've got to do is really relish this moment, because history is about to be made as a black woman from Oakland, California, that went to Howard University, who is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, is about to become the vice president of the United States. And I think we all should be proud of that.
Absolutely. We were just talking about that off the air Tuesday night when we went off. We was in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah.
And before we got off, we were saying, man, yeah, we love Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
But young lady said, but Cousin Kamala,
brother.
that's my girl, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It reminds me of the day when Barack Obama got elected. I was stunned. It ended early. By 11 o'clock, we knew he was president. And I cried real man tears. Like,
Oh my God.
like messed up a T-shirt that night, like soaked, because it showed me that when we vote, I said this earlier, when we vote, we win.
We matter.
When we vote, we win, and we matter.
Yep. You're
Thank
right.
you, man, for the platform and the opportunity, brother.
Martin, I've enjoyed this long talk with you tonight, bro.
Me too, man.
Thank
Been
you so
great.
much for coming on.
Yeah,
Let's stay connected,
I look forward to it.
watching this, and the minute it breaks, we'll
Yes,
be
sir.
back.
Hey, man, I look forward to it. Call me whenever you want me to come back.
All right, friend. You take care now.
All right, brother. You too.
All right. Well, friends, another long talk. We are so, oh my God, words can't even describe having heard what Brother Martin just shared with us, and making sure that we understand through a wider scope of what we're actually watching, what has happened, what is currently going on, and what, as he gave us that charge, to understand the significance of what is always transpiring politically. And I know that our focus tonight is on the political world, as most of the country is anticipating and waiting. But as we said tonight, it is so imperative that we always stay engaged. We're always educating. We're always sharing the significance of why we should participate in the process in the improvement of the quality of life for us all. And so I pray that this conversation has been meaningful to you, as we seek always to bring meaningful dialogue. And I appreciate you for tuning in tonight to Long Talk. As I say all the time, please stay connected to us here at Long Talk. You can always find us. We're always here on Facebook. We're always on Instagram, Twitter. We're always tweeting. Thank you to all of our Twitter community. We love you. We appreciate you for the stimulating dialogue that we always have on Twitter. And then, as always, those that are on YouTube, those that are watching us there. Listen, I know there's going to be a long weekend, and we're going to get through the weekend, but next Tuesday, we'll be right back here for Long Talk. I'm sure we're going to have a special update the minute the news breaks. We'll be back here, but I need you to go ahead and mark the calendar for next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, special guest Kai Wilson. She's been with us before talking about insurance, and she's got some more information she's going to share with us next week. So I want you to just mark the calendar. Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. We'll be right back here, Long Talk, talking about those insurance needs. A lot of questions arise every time that we bring her on the show. So Get your questions ready. We're going to have a meaningful long talk with Miss Kai Wilson next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. All right? All right. Well, again, as always, thank you so much. Please share this with someone who may not have known about this conversation. Lead them here to Long Talk so they can understand what's getting ready to happen. And we appreciate you so very much for tuning in. All right. Well, until next time or whenever the news breaks here at Long Talk, we appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of this evening. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time here on Long Talk. Enjoy your evening. God bless.
Follow us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to Long Talk.